We are deeply, deeply honored to have Dr. Ashis Nandy among us today. He needs no introduction. He is among India's most distinguished thinkers, a towering figure in the fields of sociology, post-colonial studies and psychology. He has received numerous accolades around the world, the most recent being the 2019 Hans Killian Award from the German Kohler Foundation. He took an early interest in Sagarika's case, and recently, since she is now working in Delhi NCR with a multinational software engineering company, interviewed her. It was a very interesting conversation, and we are absolutely delighted to have him give us his thoughts on this whole saga. Dr. Ashis Nandy.
I have very little to say, but I should be very brief. Today's newspaper, one of the newspapers, Indian Express, has an article where the author reminds us that the first people the Nazis, after coming to power, killed were not the Jews. They were those who were in various mental hospitals. Germany was famous for its medical system. And these mentally ill were taken in buses to a gas chamber and gassed away. It was the first case, he says. It was not the first case. In 1920s, a well-known series of German medical professionals, famous German doctors, said in a statement that we should have the right to terminate life which is not worthy of life. And they started by convincing parents of whose newborn babies had certain disabilities. And ultimately, in almost all cases, they managed to convince the parents to kill the child. I say this because a very strange reason, namely that our times, categories have become the easy means of domination. I want to explain this. You do not dominate that easily through warfare, through political power, or through sheer violence and oppression. Because after a point it becomes much more complex and difficult, and very difficult to sustain. You begin to dominate by declaring certain areas of life as sacrosanct that cannot be challenged. The Enlightenment values of 17th century brought in a series of great minds who believed that some areas, particularly modern science, must be given so many elements of sanctity. It must have priority over religion. This belief has made science a subject which is always correct. Anything which stands against it as dishonest, false, superstitious, and so on and so forth. Not only religion was affected, many areas of life were affected. Now, as it happens, I happen to have a discipline which is close to the problems we are discussing. And I do not believe that it is possible to multiply Sagarikas like COVID vaccines. No. So we have to think of it in certain other terms. It is also not an easy case of racism. Sagarika herself has said that similar ill treatment has been meted out to Norwegian children too, because it has become a kind of a capital-intensive business, where some people are profiting by taking on foster children. And this is the social welfare. Now, I would like to suggest, and their arguments are taken from my discipline, psychology, particularly child rape. And I can ensure you that there is nothing like that in modern psychology or any forms of psychology which says that a mother's care is intrinsically inferior to a foster care. It depends on the mother, it depends on foster parents. And I would suspect that it is natural that a mother's care will be more intense, more sympathetic and empathetic to the child, and more intuitively correct than any professional psychologist can be when the child is as small as 2 years old, particularly. And I stand by this. So this is the logic in which we are caught. We are now dominated by ideas which are seen to be intrinsically welfare measures, but in actuality produce a new set of consumers, new set of buyers and sellers, and new set of professionals who expertise and give their judgment on that. It is a bit like the American judicial system, where large parts of the jail system is in private hands, and as a result, a vested interest has grown about that. So the judges who give the longer sentences are actually indirectly rewarded for that with huge sums of money by the owners of the jails. So for a petty theft you might get a 40 years imprisonment because you also gave a blow to the victim, something as comical as that. So this is the part of the story. So this system has become now in Norway itself a vested interest. And Sagarika tells me that it is now also as spread to some other countries there. Like England, I think. Now India is thinking on it. I would think that some kind of a clear understanding of this is necessary. That certain things has to be the priority of the parents. And if not the parents, it should be the priority of those who can take care of the child within the family, to the area possible. Yeah. I know this is not easy to do, and welfare systems thrive on now this kind of professional attention, so-called professional attention. because in Norway, the foster families are paid by the state something like 3,500 orders. That's a lot of money. And if you can not only take care of the child and you can also enrich your own lifestyle out of that. So the lesson of this is this, that we must learn to suspect professionals also, even if they are scientists. I think the time has come to say that I mentioned the Nazi experience because that was a logical end of giving absolute sanctity to a scientific position and killing all the disabled babies in Germany. In the name of Nazis, then took it over as in the name of improving the racial equality. So that we have the right as human beings to be skeptical of everything, including professionals, and of corporatized sectors of population, particularly because there's a lot of personal and collective interest involved in various sites. So this is what I wanted to say to you, that there should be a healthy skepticism about any of such welfare measures which intuitively or simply we have come to look as vulnerable or flawed. There are many flawed mothers, I'm sure, in the world. There are many flawed fathers. But the idea that they could come, that is the norm, so that is the easy way out is not true. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nandy. I mean, I wonder if a press conference has ever seen such a rarefied and philosophical presentation, but that is precisely what it needed.